Karla Schafer, designer for Auntie Beads, and I'll be demonstrating how to make a flat Kumihimo bracelet with beads, and we're going to be doing it on a round disc. The materials used in this project are as follows. We'll be needing to use a round Kumihimo disc. You will need S-Lon and rat tail. I'm also going to be doing the bracelet with a 3mm Miyuki cube seed bead. You will need a toggle, you'll need jump rings, you will need 2 eye pins, you will need at least 2 bobbins, measuring tape, Zap-A-Gap, and for tools you'll need a pair of scissors or a nipper tool, round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, and a nylon jaw plier. First thing we're going to do for this flat Kumihimo bracelet is we're going to, this is an 8 warp, so I'm only going to need to cut 6 pieces of the rat tail, and I'll need 2 pieces of the S-Lon. And again, the same measurement should apply for this as other Kumihimo bracelets. You want to do at least 3 times what you would do for a bracelet, for your bracelet measurement. And actually, I'm only beading about 6 inches. So I did a little less this time, and I did like 18 to 20 inches. And on the S-Lon, I did do just a few more inches for this. But what you want to do on the S-Lon is you're going to use a big eye needle, and you're going to thread on your cube seed beads. And what I did is I cut everything to length, knotted, did an overhand knot here at the end, and then I went and added my beads. And you're only going to need about 25, so I'd say do 30 beads or so on each thread, and then put a stop bead on the end of your thread. This is where I strongly suggest that you add a bobbin to just the beaded strands, and you again can just wind the bobbin thread around, leave some of your beads out, but you want this to have leave some beads out to work with. But this is going to make this tangling a lot less by using bobbin on your beaded threads. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to load our disc, and for the purpose of the video this is not actually the right length, but I want to show you how to load. So you're going to take your S-Lon and we're going to put it in the top spot, 32. And then we're going to take 2 pieces of the rat tail and we're going to put them over at 24. And the west and the east points. And also at the north, south. This is how we're going to load our disc. And you can also add weight to this knot at the bottom for good tension. This is the way it's going to be loaded. We're going to have the 2 S-Lon threads at the top in the north position, and then the rat tail in the west and the east and the south positions. And this, using this round disc, we don't actually move the disc, so we're just going to always keep our 32 at the top. You can also do this on a square disc, but I'm going to do it on the round. And so the first thing we're going to do is set up our first move, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the thread from the top and place it here. And we're going to take it, you can tighten all this up here. Then we're going to take it from the bottom, I'm going to bring it up and across until we have this, and I'm going to straighten all this out and tighten this up so you can see. And this is what you should have right here. And again, we're not going to rotate the disc at all. We're going to keep everything like this, and this is how it's going to look. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to remove this thread and bring it down. Then the 24 and the 25, bring it down. Then we're going to bring this up. And then here we are going to reposition these threads. We want to make a couple of rounds with no beads so we have some ends to work with. So we're going to do that first. So I'm just going to continue this for a couple of rounds. And as you go, just kind of, right now I don't have the weight on there, but just make sure you have everything nice and tight. bring these home. Reposition. And then you start over. This next round we can start adding beads. As you can see here, this thread is a little loose, and as we reposition it, I want to make sure we tighten it. Especially key when we start adding the beads in here. Okay. And again, it took me a little bit to get used to the pattern, but once I got it, it was not hard to keep it going. So just pay attention to what you're doing. If you do make a mistake, and especially in the beginning stages of this, when you're doing this, you'll pretty much have to start over. I've done it multiple times until you really get used to the pattern. Okay, now we're pretty much back where I started. I feel like I have a good end here to work with, so we can start adding our beads. But we're not going to add our beads until we get to here. So I'm going to bring these down. This is when we add the bead. When we go to reposition the super line, when it's at this point, you're just going to take a bead and you're going to slide it down, reposition it. And you want these beads to be on the outside of the thread, of the braid. So that's why we're going to do them at this point. Then we just continue as we have been. Just make sure that that bead stays tucked down there. Again, you want to tighten everything up. And bring back to the home position, reposition. And as you can see, your little beads are there on the sides of the braid, which is really easier to see as you get it going. And just continue this pattern, dropping a bead, only when it's repositioned, when the S-Lon is in that position to reposition. So here again, just going to slide a bead up, drop it down, reposition the thread. You see this bead here as it jumped up, you want to make sure you get it tucked down in there. And again, I just need to push everything back, make sure that it stays down there. There you go. And you can see what we've got going on here. Okay, this is the bracelet that I've got mostly done. As you can see, the little cubes sit on the edge of the braid. And I told you that, you know, sometimes you'll make a mistake, and I do actually have a mistake in here, and it's really hard to tell, but I can see it. Like I said, once you figure out how to unwind it, you can. Otherwise, you're just going to have to start over. And I know that's kind of discouraging, but sometimes that happens until we get used to it. So I'm just going to continue doing a couple of more rounds on this before we finish the ends. Now you could also do this pattern with 6/0 and probably 8/0 rounds. Of course, the amount of beads would be more. I did try to do it with Super Unos, but I wasn't able to get it threaded onto my S-Lon. And if you can, try to work with both hands. Working each side seems to kind of helps me keep the pattern going a little more. I'm going to try to keep everything in the center. And of course, when this is hanging free with your weight, you're really not going to have that much of an issue as I am right here. I'm going to add a few more beads, check my measurement, and then we'll be able to do a couple of rounds without any beads and end it. Made a mistake. Made a mistake and I caught it before I did it. Okay, I'm just going to do some rounds without any beads. First, I'm going to make sure I've got the right amount of length. Just use your tape measure. Yes, and I'm going to do about 6 inches so far, and we're going to go ahead a couple of rounds so we have some end to work with. At this point too, you might want to remove your bobbins so you can get all your thread out. As you can see, I almost had just the right amount of rat tail. This one just did a little shorter than I normally do. couple more rounds, and then we'll be ready to end this. Okay, I'm going to tighten all this up, reposition it, and then we're going to glue our seam here. I'm actually going to go ahead and bring it all across here so it's all together. Okay, pull everything nice and tight. And take your Zap-A-Gap and glue your seam here so it doesn't come unraveled when you take it off. I'd even go ahead and glue it along here. Then you can remove it from your disc. And you can see the braid that you have, and we'll be ready to put the ends on it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clip off the excess threads here so that they're out of our way. I'm going to be using these little Tiara Cast Raja bead caps, so I know I'm going to be pretty close to the beaded area of the piece here. First thing I want to do, the first time I did this, I hadn't really thought it through. So the first thing I'm going to do, since I have to cut so low here to the bead for the bead cap to go over, I'm going to go ahead and run my eye pin through my braid, where this is what I'm going to use to run up through my bead cap. So I'm going to work that through there, close to the beaded area here. I'm going to take my eye pin and I'm going to bend it up and then the wire up. And then when I put this on top, it's going to come down like that. It'll be much better. And I didn't do this before, and I clipped and I had too much glue and had a hard time getting it through. So now I know. I'm going to go ahead and take the Zap-A-Gap again, because I don't want all this work to unravel. And I'm going to go ahead and saturate the sides here. And I'm going to clip this off. And I'm also going to add a little glue here to the back of the pin and here. Okay. And I'm going not to clip the pin itself, but we're going to clip the braid. So I'm going to just, do it in stages so you don't have to bend that out a little bit. Get your excess cut off, and want to get it as close as we can to our bottom of our eye pin here, because we want to be able to put that cap on top of it. And then I bring that back up. And I still want it to be able to catch in that braid. That's why I went ahead and put the glue all the way down around it. Then I'm going to run that on my eye pin. I'm going to fit it like the way it looks. I'm going to take my nylon jaw pliers, and I'm just going to kind of press this cap a little bit over the braid so that it closes. Just to give it a little better fit. And then we're going to take this, the round nose pliers, we're going to add a cube. You can also add a crystal or round bead, whatever you like. And I'm going to take my round nose pliers, I'm going to wrap a loop. This way we can add our clasp, or if you wanted to add chain or anything, you've got a little working loop here to do so with. And we're going to trim. Then we can do the other end. Take your Zap-A Gap again. I'm going to get rid of this knot first. Okay, and again, I want to take my eye pin from the back side of your bracelet. That's where you want the eye to go. Right above the beaded area. Work it in. And again, glue all this. Careful not to get stuck in it. I have a little glue on my eye pin I'm going to remove. Then I'm going to let that set just for a few seconds. It won't take long, and then you can start removing the excess. End. Bring this up. Take your bead cap. And if you're not happy with the fit, then you can trim some more off. Take your head pin, and again I'm going to take my nylon gel pliers and press this down just slightly. I'm going to add a bead, wrap a loop, and then we'll add our clasp. As far as your head pins here, I try to use the highest gauge possible that I can so we have a good strong wire to work with here. Probably a 20 gauge would be the best. Then we can add our toggle. We're just going to add a jump ring. And 1/2 of your toggle. And as well as the other side. And then we've completed our bracelet.